minister was getting ready for the Sunday service, and he wasn't too happy because he had found out late in the week that the roof repairs had cost twice as much as he had anticipated, and so he was going to have to ask the congregation for some more money. And so Sunday morning came around, and the organist calls and says that she's sick, and so he had to incorporate an organist real quick to get there. And so the organist was there, and of course it put on the pressure on the minister, and he said to the organist, listen, here's the program, play exactly what it says, but I'm going to have a time where I say something about the finances, and when I'm done with that, please play something. And so the organist said, yeah, okay, I'll do that. So the service went on, and the minister got up and said, I hate to tell you this, people, but I've got the original cost of estimate of $4,000 for the roof repair is twice that, so we need to raise another $4,000. So would those of you that are able to give $100 or more, please stand up. And right at that moment, the organist started playing the Star Spangled Banner, and everybody stood up. That is how the replacement organist became the permanent organist. Okay, where are we? We're here today, and today's talk, which is going to be a little bit different. I want to say hi to everybody online because we are going to include you too today. If we're going to have some, at least one question during the service, and if you have a question, type it in, and our famous camera person Sandra there will holler at me and tell me what the question is. So today's lesson though is about faith, and oops, almost messed it up. Merriam-Webster's, I want you to think about faith first of all, because there's going to be a question about it, like I said. Merriam-Webster's definition of faith, though, is to believe in something unseen. And that's, actually, it's gone kind of down. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed. If you look, especially at Merriam-Webster, which is probably, I would say, still the leading dictionary around, but I don't know. Anyway, or Webster used to be, then they merged, Merriam-Webster. But over the years, have you noticed how definitions have changed and the old definition moves down sometimes? Have you seen that? I'm glad other people have noticed that, because it's kind of odd to me, but that's the way it is. That's just it. So anyway, this used to be the number one definition, but it's probably 3 now. The belief in things unseen for the word faith. Faith is the first thing that we're going to talk about in this Advent season. And faith, for me, is one of the most important things, is why one of the reasons I came into ministry. Just having that faith to go forward and see what God can do through you. And so that's what it is. But I think in the end, as I've said before many times, if we look inside ourselves and earnestly ask about faith within ourselves, we're going to find out that faith isn't a belief in the unseen, it's a knowing in the unseen. That's when you really step forward in faith, when you know that something's going to come back. Now, it isn't something that you you may have an idea in your mind, but almost always, if you go forward in faith, it's going to come out a little bit different than what you thought. Although if you don't limit it, it's going to come out better than you thought. Paul, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the minister. Anyway, I can see him, and I can't remember him. The guy who actually took over the prayer department while we were there, Paul, isn't it? Paul, not Hasselbeck, but the older guy, his wife died. She was the matriarch of Unity for a long time. Anyway, that's all right. I'll remember later. You remember? Oh, okay, I can see him right now. Anyway, he's still around, but he took over the prayer department for Unity for a little bit, and he always reminded me, because I was, I'm third generation Unity, so I was always into, I guess, the older people, because I knew them already, and we would, since that's the way I was taught, we saw things more eye to eye. So anyway, there was a prayer department, believe it or not, or a dreams department, a dreams department there at Unity during the Fillmores, believe it or not, and to interpret dreams and things, and it was put aside for many, many, many years, and then I'm going to think of his name here in a minute. He came in and took it over for a little bit before he retired fully. So anyway, a knowing, do you see the difference though between a belief in things unseen and a knowing of things unseen? I know that y'all have experienced that in some way, shape, or form in your life. But this is the first question. I kind of gave you some time there. What is your experience with faith? I know it might be a tougher question, but you don't have to be, there's not a right answer. It's just your experience with faith. You going to say something for me? Come on, somebody be brave enough to say something online for the first time. Who's going to say something about their experience with faith? Nobody in here has had experience with faith? What's that? Sure.
The thing that comes to mind to me is that when I was younger and when they would teach faith, you would learn about faith, but as I got older and studied things for myself, it seemed as if they were speaking more about hope than faith. And then when I understood that faith was, because I think I told someone something, I said, faith is kind of like when you sit in the chair, you don't hope that it'll keep you. You know that.
Oh, good.
You know what I mean? So,
yes, keep going. No, I like that.
No, that was pretty much it. It was just being able to differentiate that. To say, wait a minute, you've been hoping all this time. You haven't really had faith.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah,
Thank you. And that is a key thing thank you very much, Jerry, because that is a key thing, the difference between hope and faith. I didn't bring it up today because I brought it up before, but hope and faith are two different things. I mean, there's nothing wrong with hope. Nothing wrong with hope. And faith is knowing. Faith is a knowing. I know whatever you're going through right now in your life, whatever you think the country's going through, whatever you think the world is going through, I know if you have a faith that it's going to come out good, what's going to happen? It's going to come out good. Billy, you had something you wanted to say? Go ahead.
When I was going through my throat cancer, because of the love and support I received from the members of the congregation, I had total faith that I was going to get through it all.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Yeah. And that's a good explanation of a personal faith about what you can do in your own self. I mean, the best thing, in my opinion, to wager on, if you're wagering, is yourself. Wouldn't you agree?
Right.
You can control that, can't you? And it's not about being a control freak, but it's you know what you can do and can't do. Hopefully there's not too much can't by limiting yourself. But you know what you can do, and you can amaze yourself by betting on yourself and going forward. Well, that's just a few experiences of people with faith. A later definition in the word faith, though, in the dictionary is efficacy. And efficacy is the power to produce an effect. And isn't that really what we're talking about here? I don't want to get confused, though, because unity, sometimes people say, well, unity is the feel-good church, and we go there because we want to learn how to get stuff. And that's not what I'm talking about, okay? I'm not talking about that. You will get stuff. I'm not trying to limit that. But if you are going into it to get stuff, you are going to be limiting yourself, believe it or not. That guy I was trying to think of earlier, which I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, he used to say, not this or something better, but the best is yet to be. That's what he used to always say. The best is yet to be. Now that might ring up some ideas of who he was.
We're talking about Phil?
Phil Pearson, thank you. I knew it was a P.
Gosh.
Phil Pearson. Okay, anyway, sorry. Phil Pearson, anyway, he was...
You got demerits on that one.
Oh, well. Yeah, that's all right. It's not the first time I got demerits with him. So, anyway, you got to love each other. So, but anyway, he used to say the best is yet to be. And he really coined that phrase in unity. And some places took it on, some places didn't. It's kind of like... Okay, I'm going to keep thinking of my things that I'm losing right now. See, I forgot my jacket is the problem, so I got a forgetting thing going on right now. But anyway, efficacy is the power to produce an effect. And if we're betting on ourselves, and we know that we are capable, and the whole idea behind that is to try to stretch yourself beyond what you think you can do. If we just set up a plateau where we know, like, well, I can walk to Dee, which is the back of the church right now. That's not really, I know I can do that, of course, and it's really not stretching me at all, is it? Yet, if I pay close attention while I'm doing that, then maybe I can learn something that will stretch me while doing that. So always be open and know that you have the power to produce not only the effect you want, but more than that. So what do we have faith in? Just throw it out. Popcorn it out. Christ. Okay. Christ. What else? Love. I don't know where that came from. It doesn't make sense. What? Huh? Almighty God. Life. Ourself.
Friends, family.
Friends, family. These are some I wrote down. We have, for those of us here for sure, and those of us online, we're probably thinking that we have faith in God or some higher power, spirit. Sometimes we put all of that in one, don't we? We have faith in ourselves, hopefully. Hopefully we have faith in ourselves, because it's been my experience, to be quite honest, not only people in unity, but people in that go to church or in religion, the main thing that holds them back is the idea of self-worth. What am I worth? And when you say, in fact, what do you say when you say, what am I worth to yourself? You might say something, right? Might say something as far as a limit. I'm worth, even if you go, what am I worth? I am worth $1 billion. Wow, that sounds great, doesn't it? That sounds great right this second, doesn't it? But it is still what? Limiting me, isn't it? And I, as the Christ Spirit within me, am what? Unlimited. You know what? I don't know if a lot of people are old enough, and this is another Petula Clark deal. A lot of us are old enough to remember some things, and when I started my business, it's been, 35 years ago now, I said to my mom, who was a union minister, I said, you know, Mom, if I ever make it to where I have a phone in the car, I know I've made it. Yeah? Well, you know what? When those phones came out, those big old packs, I got one. Big old battery packs, and I'd proudly wear that around me going into the different people, act like somebody's calling me. And those big old batteries didn't last very long, did they? It was funny. But now what? Everybody has one, which is great. And they're not near as big, not as bulky, nothing, a lot easier, a lot better, a lot more information, right? So I limit myself when I put an amount or a final destination to what I am worth. Because if you understand you're unlimited, then you have unlimited opportunities, don't you? We also put our faith in love, don't we? I hope. Sometimes more than others, right? Remember when you were in love for the first time and everything, the world was just so wonderful. The world, there was no flaws in the world whatsoever. I don't care what was going on. It was perfect. Because you had met this perfect person for you, right?
And you still feel that way.
Oh, I still feel that way about Francie, but that was over 25 years ago. But, you know, as time progresses in that relationship, you find out that, you know, you're expanding your thoughts, you're expanding your viewpoints of not only the other person, but you. And I have something I don't like to say, but I do say it sometimes because it's just a fact. Unity Ministry School, which has been there for a long time, had quite a few people that went to school, to seminary, married, and left seminary, divorced.
Oh.
What was the reason for that, you think?
One grew and the other one did wrong.
Yeah, well, yes. And which one was that, though? One grew and the other one didn't, a person said. Which one grew, though?
They grew apart.
They grew apart, yes.
Different directions.
Different directions. And so, you know, a lot of people in unity might, or unity ministers especially, might say, well, the unity minister, of course, grew more and the spouse could not handle it or whatever.
Right.
But that's not necessarily true, is it?
Or they could have realized they got married for the wrong reason.
Could have realized that they were together for the wrong reasons. There's all sorts of ideas and reasons behind it. Yet, we're all on this spiritual journey, each and every one of us. And if we understand that, from a unity minister's perspective at least, understand that, especially growing in your consciousness, knowing that, and you're married or you have a relationship, then isn't it more fair to that relationship to say, come on along with me, this is great. And you're going to find things out about yourself. Huh?
You said it's more fair. That sounds like a judgment.
It's not meant to be judged.
Oh, okay.
Judgment. It's just as far as, and it is a little bit of a judgment because as a unity minister learning more about yourself, I would hope that they would be at the point where they can see the difference between the two. And that's what we're all doing. You know, I loved, when I was 15, I think my parents got divorced, and it was crushing. You know, my parents were great about it. If they ever had an argument, they would go in the other room and leave the kids out of it. It never was shown that they were having troubles. And so when they got a divorce, it was crushing. And I was so grateful for them for knowing that, you know, that is really thinking about everybody involved. Now, not the divorce itself. No kid wants to see their parents go through the divorce because they think, these two are my parents. They weren't ever individuals, were they? From the kid's perspective, right? They weren't never individuals. They were my parents. But one of the wonderful things about them is they were amicable in their divorce. It wasn't like we couldn't see either one of them, although they did separate, live states apart. But it was something that they could say, you know, hey, I have no problem with any of our kids seeing the other spouse. And this last one, I don't even like putting up there, but it's true, and I'm guilty of it too. What do we put our faith in here? Ooh, money. Especially in Western culture. How many people pick up a penny or a nickel anymore? Some do. Not everybody. Why is that? It used to be, now 20, 30 years ago, would we always pick up that nickel or penny? Yes, we would. Why has it changed? Because the value, we have decided the value has gone down, haven't we? To a point where it's not worth me bending over to pick it up. Right? You know, when I was a kid, a penny could buy some stuff. A penny could buy a bubble gum, right? And some other stuff. And sometimes, if you're lucky, they had those bubble gums in the store that were on sale for a penny that had a joke inside of them. Bazooka. Yeah, bazooka. There you go. I love it.
I started that too.
But money, why is it worth something? And I've asked this before, but why is money worth something?
Because we all decided it's worth something.
Because we all decided it was worth something. And I never really had that taught to me until I was in graduate school, like accounting graduate school. I had a great guy by the name of, I remember his name now, Phil May, was a fellow Rotarian, and he was the instructor for graduate level accounting programs at Wichita State, and his wife was a big wig in the Department of Treasury, and so he would be called in with the FBI to do forensic accounting on banks that were in trouble or whatever, you know, especially during the savings and loan stuff. You know, he did a lot of that, so we got a lot of good experience from him. And so just along those lines, just so you'll know, anything that you've ever done on your computer, you can never ever erase it, ever. The only thing you can do is take a hammer to that hard drive. But you can never erase it. We can get to it. There are ways to get to it, even though you've not only deleted it but formatted it. You know, it used to be you format it, you think it's all gone. But no, it's not all gone. It's back in there. We can get to it. But anyway, so he taught me, though, that money, the only reason it's worth something is because you and I agree it's worth something. Right? And we're fortunate to live in a country that says the world agrees that our money is worth something, right? But there's a lot of countries that are not that way. You know, during your lifetime, the Mexican peso has gone crazy fluctuations. $1 will buy 2,000, and then it'll buy 15,000 pesos. Crazy. If we lived in that, it'd be weird. I mean, It would have been funny. Did you have something, Mickey?
It just made me think that my husband said, when, a lot of times when we're talking about antiques, but this is for anything, everything's worth whatever another person's
Willing to pay, yeah. Everything's worth whatever another person is willing to pay, that's correct. And I've got some buildings in Wichita, Kansas that I think are worth something, and I'm not getting other people to think that. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, we choose where to place our faith, but there's a part of each of us that is pulling and pushing us to the knowing of a faith that cannot be denied. If you center yourself, Reverend Francie did a good job on meditation today. If you center yourself like that every so often, and when I say that, I mean at least once a day, to get yourself in the practice of just stilling yourself and releasing all that's going on in your life and releasing anything that is going on outside of you at that moment. And just not ask questions, but be open to answers. Then you're going to find out that something inside of me is pulling me toward it. Me, meaning my human brain, something inside of me is pulling me toward it. And it's really an amazing deal when that happens. You know, I had during meditation, I had a vision that I still haven't figured out, and it's been probably, probably 10 years ago. And I'm going to see it at one point, but I still don't know what it means. But there's something that is pulling us inwardly when we release all that is outside of us. And when we start feeling that, and we start incorporating that into our life and saying, okay, I'm open for the answer, then at the same time, something within us is going to push us to express that outside of us. It's hard to explain sometimes, but I know that you've experienced it if you think about it. Faith is always pulling us toward it and pushing the idea, our understanding of faith outwardly into our life to live. Not to convince somebody else that what I say is right and what you say is wrong. How many people have been following the Sentinelese? I guess I can't remember the name of it. I used to be able to say the name real quick. The Sentinelese people that on the island that were visited by that missionary. Yeah, the tribe. And it just, sometimes I'm not disparaging the guy that made his transition. Yet sometimes if we think that, in his own words, that's the last place of Satan has a stronghold or something like that. That wasn't exactly verbatim, and that he needs to go there and convert those people essentially. Sometimes when we think that, we're not really listening to all of faith. Because I don't know if you've noticed yet or not, but God created us each uniquely. I don't know if you noticed that. And why would God have done that? Why would Spirit have created each of us uniquely? To express our uniqueness to each other and to be open to receiving that. Now that tribe, the Sentinelese tribe, has a good reason for not allowing other people there. Every time somebody's come there, it's brought them death. The reason is because it's kind of common sense even on the human understanding, is because they don't have an immune system like we do, and we don't have an immune system like they do. So one person, even fully healthy, going into that tribe might bring a disease into them. Unknowingly, unwittingly, not on purpose. But the sad thing about the whole deal is that the whole world knows about that. And you think that the Indian government's going to be able to stop people from going to that island? There's no way. I hope they do. I hope they can. But I need to switch that to faith, I guess. I need to switch it. Maybe I should have faith that they can stop them, like they had before, from going there. Because sometimes we just need to chill and leave people alone.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't know from the last elections how how many people know, because, you know, all the people that won in their elections, they changed the mind of everybody that lost. So that's how that works, right? You can go into that tribe and say Jesus is your Savior, and they're all going to believe it, right? Right off, immediately. And just the same with our elections. Whoever won, you know, they changed everybody else's mind.
Right.
Yeah, see, it doesn't work that way. So faith is something that can push and pull you at the same time. Numerous studies on faith's effect have found that people with acknowledged faith are more empathetic. And this is this is not only, I said numerous studies. This is just a scientific study. Because the human brain suppresses analytical thinking when focused on faith. Now, I have an accounting degree as my undergraduate, and I was in a master's degree, accounting degree, when I went to seminary. So what side do you think of my brain do I use a lot? My analytical, right? And this is totally true. I can attest to this personally. When you have faith, it switches from I see a poor person, a person that looks poor to me on the street, doesn't have any money, has poor clothes or whatever, and looks like they're living on the street. What do I assume from my what do I assume, first of all? I assume that the person's poor, right? I assume that the person doesn't have any money. I don't know how he or she got there. I'm going to say he, but I'm assuming that, right? I'm making a judgment call without knowing any of the facts, right? And my analytical mind says what? I don't know if you guys are going to be as harsh as I am on this, but my accounting analytical mind says, well, that person put themselves in that place, and I don't care what happened. If you give them more money, they're going to still probably be in that place, right? But if I have faith, it changes my thinking from that to what? More empathetic. But empathetic's not sympathy, remember? Don't forget, empathy is not sympathy. Sympathy is, I look at that person and I say, wow, I feel sorry for that person. I'm going to go give him food or go give him some money. Oh, aren't I good because I did that? That's sympathy. Empathy is, how can we all lift up together? My opinion of that person, first of all, is up to me, so I need to change that. And how can that opinion change for him? I had a great minister I knew, wasn't a union minister actually, George, I don't remember his last name right now. He was very good about going out. He had a lot of, he was a Methodist minister, and they had some soup kitchens, what?
Gardner.
Yeah, George Gardner. Had some soup kitchens, and he was very good about going out and talking to people that were coming in there and that were homeless and things. And what he helped me see is there's a gamut of the reasons. I mean, there's no need in guessing because why a person is in that situation, because there's just everybody's unique, like I was saying earlier, and it's all uniqueness to what that person's situation was. We have a friend that I'm not going to tell you the name because you know him, that his brother was homeless he's getting older now, so it might not be half of his life anymore, yet he was homeless for many, many years, and the reason is because he didn't want to have a home. Now, he had some mental issues, I'm not saying that, but he didn't want to have a home. He was definitely choosing that. Now, they finally talked him into a few years back to go, we'll get you in this home that'll help you and all this stuff. And he's doing better health-wise in ways, but he didn't really want that. He still doesn't like that much, you know? And I don't know if it was the four walls or what, because I've talked to him a few times, and we're the ones actually, because they don't live around here, but we're the ones that they're supposed to call if they have an emergency for him. But he has chosen that for himself. Now, by far, I would say not most people are, but that's, again, my judgment and my understanding, isn't it? So getting to know somebody is more of an empathetic and just talking to them and saying, hey, how's your life? What's going on with you? From outside, it doesn't look as good. Yeah.
But shouldn't we say to ourselves that if not for the grace of God, there go I, every time we see those individuals, and everything else doesn't mean anything? We should just look at them as if they're a child of God, and it could be us. and not really worry about how they got in it or not, and make a judgment about it.
Yes, and I hope you could be heard by that.
I was just thinking, because I've heard that. And I think that by the grace of God, well, God's given them grace too. It's like, you know, we all have grace.
Right.
So I can't, you know, I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying, but I never say that. It's like, God didn't pick me to have this and somebody else not.
Oh, no, I agree with that
Certainly
too,
it's
and I don't think
like,
that's what she was saying.
No,
No.
I know, but I've heard that and people
Yes.
use that.
And so, yeah, let's switch that around now. So, what about the people who live at the place I work at sometimes? Probably won't again, but 490 West Paces Ferry, that big old 34,000 square foot home that has those big, huge chandeliers, that huge, beautiful staircase when you walk in. Has, what did I say, Francie? It's had something like 12 bedrooms and 18 bathrooms. Beautiful place, beautiful place.
In that world.
But do we make judgments upon those people?
Right. No, that's true.
People do.
Yeah, we make judgments on those people too, don't we? A lot of people will say, you know, well, how'd they get their money? You know, they had to be cheating somebody somehow. But when we do that, what are we saying? We're saying there's only so much to go around, isn't there? Isn't there? And that again, is cutting off our unlimitedness. If we see everybody as a child of God, then there won't be any difference from an economic stance or other socio-economical whatever type of ideas or labels that we put on each other, would there? Now, all of y'all know me, and I know that, and you know that I have some issues with some things as far as the way things are set up, as far as fairness. Okay? Yet, that's not what I'm talking about here, okay? Yeah.
But I always saw empathy as being able to see life from the position of somebody else.
That is part of it.
You know what I mean?
You can do it
That
that way.
covers rich or poor.
Correct.
You know, healthy or sick. It
Right.
covers everybody. But I think a lot of the times, at least many of the times, because of the ideal that we have about poor and our sick, we see it only one side. But we don't
Right.
see it in terms of just being equal among all types of people.
Mhm.
Right.
And I know that not everybody agrees with this or claims this, but you know, for many, many, many years, and it has really nothing to do with unity, but for many years, in fact, probably it's way deep in my consciousness still, is when you look at when I look at someone and see that they, you know, on the lower economic and then the higher economic, those people didn't make it. Those people did. And you can switch it to sometimes those people cheated somebody, you know, however you look at it. Some people have a dislike for people who have a lot, and some people have a dislike, believe it or not, for people who don't have a lot. There are people like that too. Yet when we use our empathy, we can see a little more, like you were saying, you know, walk a couple of miles in their moccasins and understand where they're coming from. Like that group on the island, that tribe. Not too many people can walk in their shoes, right? But there is one of the good things that has happened about that. Some other people, there was another group in Vietnam, the mountains of Vietnam, there's a guy that lived like that for, I don't know, I think he's 13 when he left the tribe. But when he came out, he was like that show that everything was amazing to him because he never knew anything but the jungle. But he told his experience, and he also told why they don't want other people in there from the outside. It's because of the disease and stuff, and it never brings them anything really good. They know how to live in the jungle. Don't bother them. If that's their temple, if that's what they like, yeah, if somebody wants out, let them out. A world without faith would be a world of quid pro quo, though, wouldn't it? And quid pro quo means this for that. It's a legal term that you're not supposed to do. There's been a lot of studies that I've been in, And one of the early things when you're signing up or signing things, they always say no quid pro quo. And that means, like, if you're going for a grade or something, you know, it's like this. So a student turned in a test that he wasn't ready for once to the professor in college, and he didn't have time to study because he was out partying. He put a $100 bill with it and answered all the questions on the test, but he put a $100 bill in it and had a note with a $100 bill saying, keep $1 for every point, please. And so he expected to get 100 on the test. And he got the test back the next day, and he got $64 change. He didn't do good on that test, did he? So this for that. That's what a world without faith would look like. You know, there's no need for me, if I don't have faith in things being the better for everyone, then I can't see it being the better for everyone, and I will just do for myself how I can get ahead, no matter who I step on, right? And that's sometimes how we look at the people with a lot of money. Sometimes. So, this is from Charles Fillmore, and it says, the end of the revealing word, the end of the world. And this is, to think about the end of the world for a minute, and think about what you think of when you think the end of the world. Because this is going to surprise you, his definition of the end of the world. The end of the world is the separation of the true from the false in consciousness. When the wisdom and understanding of spirit are so developed in us that we, of our own accord, of our own choice, choose whom we will serve and select that which is right in the sight of God. The world passeth away, and the lust thereof. From John 2:17. That's a little bit different idea than what, if you were raised in a traditional church, what the end of the world is, isn't it? The end of the world, as far as old biblical teaching, is what? Fire and brimstone. Right? And only the good are going to be saved. Only the, I even forget the number. I don't know why. I'm forgetting my stuff. Huh?
144,000.
Yeah, 144,000 are going to be saved. Thank you. Let's see, how many do we have on this one? But doesn't that change the idea of the end of the world for you? And if we can go back in our own human history anyway, we can see that this is a lot more true than the people who have claimed the end of the world and Jesus in his second coming and all that. If we understand this. Because the end of the world really is an individual deal, just like the second coming, of what our consciousness is. If I shift my consciousness of that person that's on the street to, he is from, that guy's put himself there and there's no way they can help him, to, he's a child of God just like I am, and he has the same ability to do what I do, let's sit down and talk. Isn't that a big shift? That would be the end of the world for that type of idea that he's no good or whatever, he's out there on his own. Right? That's a total shift. And that changes everything. But that only comes through faith. The Christian world is beginning the celebration of Christmas with the birth of new man. The Advent season in most churches will tell you it's about the birth of Jesus, a person in history, correct? Right. Now Jesus taught himself from his own teachings that the Christ within him is also within you. And so what he's saying is the birth in you is the important thing. Our woman I could have put there. I should have put /woman.
Human.
Thank you. This is something fun too. Francie, when she saw this, she said, ears, is that really in the revealing word? And it is. Ears from the revealing word, the definition, represent the obedience and receptivity of the mind. Now, I know that a lot of people, if you're still in your old thinking, think, oh, that obedience word, that just turned me off. Isn't that true? If you don't think that way anymore, that's great. If you do, let's start switching. But I know that a lot of us have had the experience that obedience, man, if that comes up in a spiritual talk, ooh, that means I got to bow down. Right? But it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't mean that you have to bow down, but it means that you understand the validity of what is being said and you choose to be obedient to it. You choose to follow it. Right?
Yes.
If Dee Dee, I don't know where she went over there. If she's got $1 million back there, and I know that's not much money, but she's got $1 million back there, and God told her, Warren, this is your $1 million. So Dee Dee stands up and says, Warren, this is $1 million I got for you. You hadn't shown it to me. $1 million. Would you please step right foot after left and come back here and get it because God said so?
You be
What?
running.
Yeah. See, I'd be running and I'd probably lose the money because I was supposed to walk. I'd go there because what? Would it might? Huh?
Those are the instructions.
Those are the instructions. And how I get that. And I've got too darn much faith in money. But I want that money, so I'm going to go get it. It represents the obedience and the receptivity of the mind. So if we can get over the idea of obedience, the word, and understand that it's just accepting the receptivity, then we can maybe get somewhere, right? These last elections, how many people that were really high up and were fighting at each other, how many people at the end do you think they went out with their opposing force to coffee with or get drinks? Not as many as, yeah, good, I'm glad. Yet not as many as used to, right?
Right.
Wow. But if we are receptive, if we are open to the ideas that, you know what, and this is what I like to do after every election, whether I chose the person, whether I voted for that person or not, I like, and I do it all the time anyway, as far as the president, whoever, I always pray for that person when they're in office. Whether I voted for that person or not, doesn't make a difference. Because I am entrusting the idea that all of us together have made the right choice. Right? Now, if you didn't follow my choice, I'm sorry you got it wrong, but I'm going to say that you all are correct. It is time for glorious relationships with all of humanity. And we can have that. This Advent season, you know, last week I told you that 40%, I think it is, or 60%, now I'm forgetting the numbers again, of all of church giving is during the Christmas time, 40%. And the reason is because people are more receptive to it at that time. Now, see, most of the time, although this is a fact, the other 10 months of the year, the church doesn't have as many expenses. So just those 2 months, that's what we're doing, making up those. Some people got that. It was a joke. But all of humanity, when we can see all of humanity as us doing the best they can. You know, I had a friend in seminary. Anyway, he would always sign, oh, I know who it was. He was another guy from Wichita, actually, and he surprised me. But he would always say, when anybody would get in a disagreement, just remember that everybody's doing the best they can right now with what they know. Isn't that true?
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I voted for some people that ended up not being what I thought they were. I know I'm the only one that has done that, but, you know, that happens sometimes. But we have to put our faith and trust into each other, don't we? All of humanity. And by doing that, we can lift up the person who is not doing as we want, or as we feel the majority of us feel. With your faith, you can join in the celebration. I hope that we have learned a little bit more about faith this morning and what it is as far as what we choose to do. Because it's always comes down that free will idea that God has given us to make our own choices. It always comes down to that. We choose whether we're going to see the light or not. And it's always there. Even on cloudy days, it's always there. You know, when I was flying, that was a fun thing to do. And there's these regulations to flying. One of them, VFR, it means Visual Flight Rules. The other one's IFR, which is all your corporate pilots and stuff, which is Instrument Flight Rules. And so what the difference is Visual Flight Rules means you can see out there, okay? And IFR means you can fly in the clouds without any problems because you've been rated on all the instruments and stuff. So what was always really a lot of fun was what they called VFR on top. And so what that was if you're tootling along and you took off, if you're a VFR pilot and you took off and everything was clear where you took off and you going a ways and then all of a sudden the clouds came in and they're underneath you, that's what VFR on top is. And so what was really cool about that is there could be a storm brewing underneath you. And it was bright and sunny where you were. And the funny thing is about flying, at least in small planes, is that up there, even though that sun's brighter than it is down here, it's cold. You would think that it'd be, I mean, just thinking about it without really experiencing it, you'd think, well, I'm closer to the sun, it'd be hot. But think about space. What is it? Cold. You're closer to the sun. So things are not always as they seem. So anyway, I've got a song for you today that Francis is going to come up here and play. I haven't heard this before this week. I hadn't heard this song in a long time, and I really like it. You know, it's funny to me how sometimes we can go along and forget about some wonderful experiences we've had in life. I don't know if you've done that or not, but this is just a song that just I have always liked, and I really want you to enjoy it. It's called, I'm going to say by in a minute, but I want the people online to hear the song because you can go play it. I can't play it for you online. But it's called Angels Among Us, and it's by Alabama. And so go online and see it. Next week, we'll have some more. Hopefully, you'll be prepared to ask some questions next week. But we'll see y'all online next week. The guy who called me this morning, I hope that you we're online today, and I hope you come in here next Sunday. So we'll see y'all online. Go ahead and play the song.